Hey, everybody. This is Chris Neal. Welcome back to another episode of Real Science with Chris Neal. Today, we're going to talk about the skin, and I'm specifically going to talk about 6 of my favorite products that I like to recommend. Yeah, so I know there's a lot of stuff out there, and everybody's going to say that their recommendation or their short list is the best. But this one's mine that I like that I think is effective, it's safe, and it's non-invasive. And you can get a hold of most of these things. These are through prescription, so you do need to see a medical practitioner, someone that does specialize in this sort of thing. It's very helpful. Or you can come see us at www.team360health.com, and we'd be more than happy to talk to you about you and yourself and what's going on and how to optimize every part of you, including your skin. So for more of this type of content, stay tuned and we'll dig in. Okay, let's do this. So the first thing that we need to dig into just a little bit, we have to touch over the skin and talk a little bit about the skin. If we don't understand the skin, how are we going to know how to optimize it? So the skin has a couple layers that are important. The top layer is your epidermis. The second layer beneath that is the dermal layer. And then you have another layer underneath that that's very minimal, and that's basically like a basement membrane. So what we need to do, we really need to get into the inner workings of the skin. So what does the skin actually do? Well, it acts as a protective mechanism for our entire body. Without skin, we wouldn't make it. Like, obviously, we would be riddled with so many infections that it would just take us out. So it does serve as a protective mechanism, but it does have to be regenerated and replenished all the time. Most of that occurs in the dermal, the deeper layer of the skin, not on the top layer. So one of the interesting facets about skincare is that the majority of over-the-counter products, or the products that you can just go out and buy without a prescription, in America at least, those products are do not really have a whole lot of penetration into the deeper layers of skin. That's truly, it's reserved for more of the prescription-based medications. And that goes for any kind of topical. That's one of the big restrictions behind any new product that's out there. Or should this be prescribable, or can this stay over the counter? Like, that's a big question. And a big facet of that is how much does this stuff actually absorb in the skin? So that's a big factor. So whenever, and most people know this when it comes to skincare, whenever you can get something that is prescribable, that it is going to be quote unquote stronger in a way, and typically what they're referring to is the absorption or ability of it to absorb into the skin. So that's what we're looking for. So as far as what the skin does need to be strong. It needs to have a good amount of elasticity in it. And those things are developed and constantly regenerated with the utilization of collagen and elastin. Those are fibers that basically build up almost like a lattice structure or scaffolding to hold the skin in place and hold it in a tight manner. And that's why we get good healthy, youthful looking appearance in our skin. That's basically what provides that. If you do not have that, if there's defects there or pockets where the collagen isn't really looking good, and let's throw in some additional adipose tissue, some additional fat in there, and you get these pockets, and that's what we typically call cellulite. Now when it comes to the skin on the face, sagginess in the skin, wrinkles. That's basically the development of a thinning of the superficial layers of the skin, in addition to a buildup of musculature and the facial musculature. And that creates these deep valleys in the skin. And that has the appearance of wrinkles. So there's ways to work on that too. And what we're going to talk about now in fighting off wrinkles, it's going to be we can't we're not going to be talking about decreasing the size of the muscles of facial expression or in the face, but we can make the layers of the skin more firm and more tight, and that's through collagen building, and also hydration. So we're going to be talking about a little bit of that. The first medication that we're going to get into is called tretinoin. Tretinoin is in a category of medications called the retinoids. So you've probably heard of these. Tretinoin is a synthetic version of retinoid. It's the strongest out of all of them. Some of the retinoids are quite a bit weaker, and they're found over the counter, or you can just buy them on Amazon or what have you. But the tretinoin version, that's the strongest one. So the way tretinoin works, well, first off, it is a vitamin A derivative. So it is necessary. The skin does like to have it. And it comes in a cream form. It also comes in a pill form. It has a lot of amazing uses. Another name of tretinoin is retinoic acid. So you might have heard of that, or retin A is another thing it's called. So it does signal collagen and fibrin growth and development, and regeneration. So that's nice. In doing so, it does help decrease the appearance of those wrinkles, like I said, by making the top layers of skin more taut and tight. You won't see those dips and valleys as much. So that's what gives you that youthful appearance. It can help with smoothing out texture issues in your skin. It does also block inflammatory processes in the skin too. So and it can that's a big part of acne, is that you have one blocked pore or an infected pore, and there's a lot of inflammation around it. That's why the acne looks bigger than what the problem actually is, just located to one pore. It's a giant circle. So if we can decrease the inflammation around that, that's really helpful. So there's some other things that it also does too. It also helps. They've recently found that it can be supportive in hair growth. So they have tretinoin creams and foams and serums for the hair. When combined with minoxidil, it can actually be pretty effective, at that. So now one of the things that we are going to go talk about with each medication is we're going to dig into a little bit of science. If you guys remember this, back in science, we talked about whether in organic chemistry, we talk about whether a product is hydrophilic or hydrophobic. So why is this important? Remember, I said in the beginning that the purpose of the skin is to protect you from the world outside. Okay, so it's like a force field that protects, all kinds of things from getting on the inside. But we're rubbing medication on our face that we want to get inside. So how do we best support that? Well, anything that's going to come in a prescription, they do account for this to some extent. They do account for absorption. That is a part of the process of being able to qualify a medication to be out, for use. So there is some aspect of that, but we can understand science a bit and help to improve things even more, because the last thing you want to do is spend all this money, rub all this stuff on your face, and very little of it actually gets absorbed, because you're doing things in a way that's not conducive to absorption. So in order to know this, we have to understand some of these scientific factors. So hydrophobic, tretinoin is hydrophobic. So you can probably pick out the root word phobia. So it's afraid of water. So it avoids water. So what that means is that it is going to be more lipid solubles, meaning that it likes lipids or fats more often. So one of the ways that we can think about hydrophobic medications as far as absorption goes, the skin by itself is naturally very hydrophobic to begin with. Okay, so it is going to repel things. It's going to repel, water and stuff like that. So you don't want to add in other strong lipids onto your face. And there's a lot of lipids out there. So when I say lipids, what do I mean? I mean oils like moisturizers, argan oils, and stuff like that. So if you're if we all have, or people that are really really into skincare, they have a skincare routine, is what they call it. A process of you do A, then B, then C, then D. So if you were to, let's say, put on a moisturizer, for example, and this moisturizer has shea butter, which is great for the skin for moisturizing, and it has argan oil maybe and a couple other things. That is like an occlusive barrier over your skin. Okay. And it's just going to make a lot of products, less likely to be able to break through that barrier and even touch the skin, much less get absorbed into the skin. So tretinoin likes those kinds of things, which is fine. So it would do a lot better than, say, like a water-based or a hydrophilic molecule, but it's still going to be it's still going to have a lot of work to do to get through that. So we want to avoid all kinds of things put on the face before, especially before a hydrophobic cream or topical. Okay, so this you want to apply to a very clean, dry face. Okay, not moisturized or anything. So what are some of the side effects of this? Skin irritation. The skin irritation. Tretinoin or retinoic acid is it's a strong antioxidant. It does drastically increase cellular turnover. So sloughing off the dead cells and encouraging more new healthy cells. So in doing so, you can create, it's almost, in its own way, it's almost like a chemical exfoliation in kind of a way. So like just how a really strong exfoliation can cause some skin irritation, you want to be careful about that with this. You also want to try and avoid extreme amounts of sun too, because of that. So yeah, that's tretinoin. It is by prescription. You can find it. It's readily available. Generally, a cream works really well. There are pill versions of this, because it's used for some other off-label uses, but when it comes to the skin, the cream is definitely the best. So next up on our list is something that I've always been a fan of. It's called NAD. NAD plus is also what it's referred to as, nicotinamide adenine dinucleotide. So this is a hydrophilic molecule. So that means that it likes water. So it's going to have a tough time just getting through the skin just because of that. But that is accounted for in the compounding process of when they make this. Now, NAD comes in a lot of different forms. They have it in, you can get an IV of NAD, at like those IV centers that you can go to, to get rehydrated and boosted and everything. So that's great. There's also NAD in a sub-Q form that you can do a shot just on your own at home. NAD is a wonderful product. It also comes in a cream, but basically NAD works the same way. NAD goes directly into the cells, in particular into the mitochondria of the cells. All cell, doesn't matter what kind of cell it is. And all living beings have NAD. So NAD, if we all remember, is a very important process in the citric acid cycle, also known as the Krebs cycle, and the electron transport chain, so the ETC. So very, very important in the energy mechanism of each cell, no matter what it's doing. So if we're applying it to the skin, the big thing that the energy is used for in the skin is for regeneration, and also for collagen formation, for fibrin, for elastin, for those fibers that help keep your skin, tight and firm and strong and elastic, all of that stuff. Cellular repair, so healing of injuries and wounds and stuff like that, scars on the face, those things are all very, very important. So that's what NAD is for. So when it comes to mixing things or creating a routine, you can mixing hydrophilic components with other hydrophilic components is great. That's fine to do. that's totally fine, and those will be okay together. So that's NAD. I'm a big fan. Like I said, you can take it sub-Q in an injection. It can go through your whole body, or you can apply it to your skin and your face. Um, I've been using an NAD cream for a long time, and I really like it. The next one up that I also really like that I use is something called GHK copper. That is a tripeptide. It is a peptide hormone, actually, and it happens to have a copper associated with it. So don't let the copper throw you off. Copper in general is an element that just so happens to like to hold on to GHK. Copper by itself is a great element that does help. It is important in collagen synthesis, so that's great all over the body, not just the face. But it does play a role there. But just the GHK aspect by itself um, has a very, very important role. It is a peptide. The GHK section by itself is a peptide that we naturally have in our body. It's very, very important as a signaling factor, and it signals either the upregulation or the downregulation of a lot of different genes. So we're talking genetics here. So what is the purpose of our DNA and our genes? Well, basically, our DNA, it's like a library of instruction manuals that every single one of our cells have. So not every single one of our cells need every single instruction manual in there. So like the skin cells, they don't need to pull out the instruction manual on how to make stronger bone. That's just not their job, but they just so happen to have the instruction manual. So there's a very, very complex network of signaling that allows the body to communicate to the different cells in different areas that have different jobs, which instruction manuals to pull out at what time in our lives, and then when is it appropriate to put those instruction manuals back. So that's one of the things that GHK copper peptide, or the GHK peptide, hormone peptide, is for. It's a signaling peptide for that. And like I said, it can upregulate or it can downregulate depending on what the role is or what it's trying to do. And it can do that to over 4,000 different genes. That's what we've discovered so far. So very, very critical across the body with things, but generally speaking, whether it's upregulating a particular gene or downregulating a different type of gene, the main gig or the main goal of GHK copper is, for the most part, DNA protection and DNA, an improvement in your health, anti-aging, pretty much, recovery, regeneration, healing, collagen formation and support. So all of that stuff is going on in the background. Angiogenesis, and that's just a fancy term that means the production of new red blood cells, or I'm sorry, new blood vessels, excuse me. So nerve growth, nerve growth and nerve healing, so all of this stuff is fascinating, and the body knows how to do it. But as we age, your body loses those signals, those hormones, and the hormones are what tells the cells, pull out that instruction manual and get to work. And if our cells don't get that signal, our cells will just sit there and degrade. So that's the fascinating part about hormones. So this is the only hormone really out of the group, GHK copper. I'm a big fan of that one. This is another hydrophilic molecule. So mixing that up with other hydrophilic molecules is totally fine. If you'd like to do them separately, apply them separately, you can also do that. Now, just let me take a moment and say, you don't have to do all of these things. This is not a full-on routine. It could be. It's safe enough to be. They're not going to interact or cause any problems. They are going to work together, but they have to absorb and get in and do their different roles, in different ways. So that's GHK copper. And let me also say, as I separated the GHK from the copper, there has been some back and forth from the FDA when it comes to the production of some of these peptide hormones. Just in the middle of 2024, there was some back and forth on that. And so some of the pharmacies now are going back to carrying GHK just by itself without the copper as an approved substance. Finding actual GHK copper is a little bit more challenging now at the latter part of 2024. But we can understand how things work and understand how to get around that and know what part is most effective and important for us to have. So if you can get your hands on the GHK, that's great. If you can't get the GHK copper, all is not lost. It's okay. You can actually make sure you're getting copper in a multivitamin supplement, and you're just fine. And you'll still reap the benefits of the actual signaling hormone, which is the GHK part. So the next one up on the list is another one that I like. It's a very natural one. We've all heard of vitamin C, right? So this one is called ascorbic acid. Ascorbic acid is a vitamin C. It's essentially vitamin C. So vitamin C or ascorbic acid comes in a cream, and it obviously comes in a pill form. But in regards to maintaining that ageless skin, in a cream form, it's a very, very strong antioxidant, and it fights the production of free radicals. So your skin is exposed to the whole world around you. And like I said, we have some very delicate delicate information in all of our cells, including our skin. So we have to have some protection for that. So whenever ultraviolet light comes in, the problem with some of the toxins in the ultraviolet light and even some of the pollutions and air pollutants that we have is that when it really comes down to it, they can go in and penetrate and mess up our library of instruction manuals. And when that happens, those are, in a way, you can think about those as free radicals. They go in and they kind of screw up your library. And they can kind of mess things up. Sometimes the instruction books can get a little off. And if your cells start to follow an incorrect instruction manual, that's where we can get some problems, all the way up leading to an extreme, which would be skin cancer. That's basically how it happens. So the more we can protect against this, the better. And antioxidants, that's what they're there for. So vitamin C is a very strong one of these. It also signals collagen production, which is what we love, obviously. So this is a great one. It is hydrophilic, but it's great to do in the morning, specifically in the morning, because you can combine it with your sunscreen, okay? And which is going to give your skin that protection, and so you can put them both on at the same time. A lot of sunscreens already have vitamin C in it already, for that purpose. So one of the side effects of taking especially the higher concentration ascorbic acids is that it is an acid, and it is a strong antioxidant, so you can get some skin irritation with this one. So be a little careful with that. Skin irritation is actually a side effect of all of these, depending on how sensitive your skin is. Some are going to be a little bit more harsh than others, the ascorbic acid and the tretinoin. But that's pretty much how that one works. The next one on the list is one that some of you might be a little surprised at. This is estriol cream. Estriol, also known as E3, is a variant of estrogen. It's an estrogen cream. Estriol is, in particular, one of the weaker estrogens as far as creating unwanted side effects when it's present inside your body. Estriol cream, one of the nice things about it is that it basically stays put. You can put it on your skin and it stays within the layers of your skin, and it's not going to go in and wreak havoc to your hormone control and your hormone balance, across the board. So that means that women and men can also take this estrogen cream, and I would not expect to have, within reason, to have any kind of hormone imbalances, because of this. So what does estrogen or estriol, what does estriol do in the skin? Well, estriol does a couple things. Hydration. I say this all the time. Water follows estrogen. So once it's in your skin, it is going to produce a lot of hydration. So it's going to give you a more full look and a healthier appearance to your skin. It does stimulate collagen, which is great. So we all need that. And it's going to give your skin a more moisturized feel and look, so enough with the dryness and everything. So, but yeah, and it does that in a very strong way. It's very effective in this. So one of the things about speaking to my women going through menopause, in the first 5 years of menopause, your skin loses about 30% of its collagen. So obviously, menopause is completely controlled by change in hormones. So if you can replenish that, at least to your face, that's a very, very good thing. This is by prescription. There are creams for this. There are also other forms. There's pills, there's injections, but if we're specifically the pills and the injections are going to change your internal hormonal balance. So you have to be cognizant of that. But the creams are great for the face, because they stay on the face and they really aren't going to go anywhere, outside of that. So yes, men and women can take estriol. It is hydrophobic, so you want to be aware of that when you're putting things on. This is one that I would recommend putting on just by itself, letting it do its thing, and then making it a separate, independent part of your routine. But very, very effective, very, very effective in what it does. The final one here is hyaluronic acid. Okay, so we're getting down to the final one on our list. Last but not least is hyaluronic acid. A lot of people have probably already heard about this, but don't really know what it is. Hyaluronic acid is it is an acid. It is hydrophilic in nature, and it's mostly used for hydration. It's a special type of molecule, but what's interesting is that there's different types. There is low molecular size and high molecular size hyaluronic acid, or low molecular weight and high molecular weight. So what that is that that's the size of the molecule itself. The special thing about this molecule in particular is that it sucks water into the molecule. It's a very, very strong hydrophilic substance, very strong just by itself. So if we know that, it's going to pull water from everywhere, including the air, actually. So you have to be very careful about making sure that you close the top on anything that has hyaluronic acid. So when you apply it to the skin, the low molecular hyaluronic acid, those are smaller particles. They will absorb and go down deeper into the layers of the skin and draw water to them to hydrate the skin really well. They're really great for elasticity, and they also help support collagen and elastin and keep things really nice and youthful appearance, that we're like. So the higher molecular weight hyaluronic acid is so large, it doesn't really penetrate into the skin that well. So it can sit on top of the skin and give you a nice hydrated look at the upper layers of your skin, or the top layers of your skin, which is also nice to have, especially if you suffer from skin dryness and peeling and things like that. But the low molecular weight really is going to penetrate a lot deeper for you. So the hydration is a big deal, with your skin health and maintaining that ageless skin appearance. So and that one, it does come in pill forms for different reasons, but in this case, for this indication, the creams are going to be, the topicals are going to be the most effective for us. So that is my list of 6 products that I really like to talk about, that I think are very, very safe. You can get them through a prescription, and this is how they work, when to use them, and they're very, very effective. The final thing I'm going to talk about is when to use moisturizers. So as we're building this ageless skin routine, we want to be careful about the use when we put on moisturizers, because a lot of moisturizers are oil-based. They have different types of oils, which are great for the skin, but those over-the-counter moisturizers are going to have, we have to imagine them like an occlusive barrier that you put on your skin to prevent other things from getting in. So we want to make sure all of our medication is on, all of our routine has absorbed, and then we put, the moisturizer on, because those moisturizers are especially going to have an issue with the hydrophilic components. It's going to have an issue with anything penetrating, but especially those, So imagine putting a drop of water on a in a bottle of oil. It's just not going to go anywhere. So it's very similar to that. So keep that in mind. The moisturizers are great to have. Sunscreen obviously is a great thing to have. To protect your skin from those free radicals, ultraviolet light, especially. So especially living down here in Florida, we have to be very cognizant of that. But anti-aging and a skin routine is great. It is great to have. It's a part of our fighting the aging process and keeping a youthful appearance. Thank you guys very much. Please like and subscribe if you like this kind of content. Then stay tuned because we're coming up with more and more and more. Thank you guys for your support. Stay healthy.